Good morning. Denise Dryden here. I'm in my new place on Bainbridge Island. This is my porch, and if I sit back, I go in the shadows, so I'm going to lean a little forward and talk to you today about failure, about the energy around failure, and about what it means when we fail, right? So the fear of failure, failing, the fear of success, these are all sort of tied together. And once we understand what the connection is between them, then we know what we can do to address it and change our lives. I've been working with failure this month as an energetic issue because it's in the body. Failure is something that we spin around in our head, but then it shows up in our body. It's our mind going one way, and then our body sort of gripping and going, oh no, what are we going to do? And I think it's really interesting because when the body freaks out, there's all sorts of symptoms. We'll go through that. So failure defined is a lack of success, an action of not meeting a desired or intended objective. You can see my face. Did you achieve what you expected to do? So when we look at these words of intended, expected, and even put the word goals in there, these are points in the future. These are points in the future that we hold out there and we go, that's where I'm going. This is what I have to do. And it's internal or it's external. And it's never successful if it's external and you haven't been trained how to go after it. There's all sorts of stuff here. You didn't make the goal or the expectation or marker. And it may be coming from a relationship. It might be a goal that your spouse or partner has. It may be a goal that you have for your child. It may be a goal from work. It may be a goal on finances. It may be a goal on physical health. But the bottom line is that if you're holding failure energy, you didn't make the goal, right? It didn't happen. It didn't work. And there are these insurmountable obstacles that come up when we start going after a target that's out there in the future. And this is completely human. This is some of the stuff that can happen. I misread the situation. I thought it was going to go that way, so I banked all of my energy on that, and it didn't. I got cocky. I thought I had it in the bag, and when it didn't happen, I was really surprised. I got behind. I thought I had more time than I did, or there were things that took longer than I thought they would. Didn't understand the issue. Didn't understand all the players in the issues. Missed something key. Missed something that was there that might have given me information that would have taken it a different direction. Overwhelm. I found myself moving, realizing that this entire week was just one big week of overwhelm. And so the fact that I didn't get some things done was like, oh, I have to be a lot more gentle on my body because I got overwhelmed. And when I got overwhelmed, I spin a little bit. And when I spin, I'm not working at my best, right? Discouraged, panicked. That's when these pessimistic thoughts come in. Or there's even, as we see sometimes in our kiddos, or in a job, it's like, it's futility. I don't even know what to do, and I don't care anymore, and I don't know how to make it work. These are all related to conversations that we have in our mind. These are mental constructs. These are things that we think about that they show up in our body. They show up in our body like somatic symptoms: flu, scratchy throat, don't feel good, depression, illness and disease, withdrawal, isolation, pull away from the issue, fight, come at it and attack it and make it wrong, blame it. We hesitate. We resign ourselves to fail. We even prepare to fail. We limit our actions. We second guess ourselves. We freeze. Or we lie and pretend like we have it. These are all things that are associated with what happens when our mind is going one way and our body's going another, and we're out of sync and it's not working. So the Hermetic principle of mentalism says that form follows thought. So when we start thinking about all of these things and we start perseverating on them, I'm going to fail, this isn't going to work, what happens is we start to create it in front of us. And then it's just like we're in this crazy making loop, right? So failure ends up being something that is an unrealistic thought, or there's a little bit of trepidation, and then the body goes into reaction, and then the mind starts pushing, kind of like the parent-child relationship. It's pretty interesting. So when we have these heavy, fearful expectations, sometimes we have to just go, where do these come from? Are these even mine? Did I pick these up from somebody else? Are these like old generational things? Or is this really me? There was an interesting experiment that went on here on the island about 10 years ago, which was, there was a group of kids and parents, and they met together to problem solve what's really going on with the stresses in school. And what they defined, the kids defined this, is that there's this bell curve, which is a natural bell curve for all academic surroundings, right? There's the low achievers, the average, and then the high achievers over here on this end. In order to live in an affluent area and have a high-producing job, you usually have to have some pretty high skill sets, right? So whether it's academic or you have a good business sense, or something's really taking you forward, and you're able to create a lifestyle of abundance, it doesn't always mean that because you're in this top part of the bell curve, that the children who are in this part of the bell curve don't know how to get to that side without feeling a tremendous amount of pressure. So what we have, and I've noticed, because I also work with families who can afford to put their kids in therapeutic programs and spend time traveling out to see them and taking care of them, that these kids that we're talking about are smart, they're bright, they're observant, they're funny, they're quick-witted, they're creative. They are also scattered in their IQ. They might have anywhere between a 20+ point spread between maybe verbal comprehension and processing. They almost always have low processing skills. Attention issues. Whether they've been diagnosed with ADHD, there are times when they cannot focus at all and times when they can hyperfocus. They have tremendous amounts of anxiety. They have deficits in executive functioning, and they struggle in school. They struggle with academics. And they start to tank. They start to feel like failures. Then the parents start to feel like failures because their kids aren't doing well in school. Then their behavior's acting out, and then we have failure throwing around all over the place. Failure. So what I want to talk about is there's this funnel. And the funnel starts where we put an expectation out there, and then all of our efforts are being driven towards that expectation. I think we do that in ourselves. I think we do that in our family systems. I think we do that in our communities. And I'm seeing us doing that, especially here in the United States, with this, what does it mean to be an American, a successful American? What does it mean to be a successful human being on this planet? And what I'm noticing is that sometimes that tunnel vision is so restrictive that it means that we live in a culture of failure all the time, because it isn't possible for all of us to be able to achieve. In fact, there are corporations in this country who make sure that they dangle success out there, but they continue to feed off of the energy of failure. So we have failure that's pervasive. Judy Lythcott-Haynes wrote a book on how to be an adult. She's the former admissions dean for Stanford University. And she said basically what's happening is that there's a lot of pressure on kids to perform. The parents are hovering, they're doing their work for them, and they're teaching them how to do the academic piece, but they're not teaching them how to do life. And her goal was, there's two things. When we're talking about how to raise an adult, love a kid and get them to do chores. Teach them how to learn how to do things. Teach them how to learn how to do life, not just academics. And so when we put the prize out in front and we focus only the skill sets that go towards that prize, we forget that we're going to experience failure in all other areas because we're not paying attention. Failure in marriages, failure in taking care of our body, self-care, self-love, failure in raising our kids, failure in a lot of different departments. So when this signature of failure shows up in our body, it's an energetic miscommunication between the mind and the body, right? It's a signature. It has an energy. And the energy is really just the energy of misunderstanding. Oh, If I move this target around, or I let go of the target and I let it be much bigger, what would happen then? What happens when we release our stringent idea of what needs to happen? So between the mind and the physical reality, and the mind can't go into overdrive trying to make it happen, it means that it sits back and it goes, well, if that's one of the options, what are other options? The other thing I wanted to point out is that when we focus on a point and we start to bring failure into our mindset, and we start to hold this energy of failure, there's like this huge extent of cruelty, which is you are nothing. You didn't do it. And this negative self-talk. So this cruelty word is pretty interesting. Whether we do it to ourselves or we allow other people to do that, or whether we do that to our children when we are continually harping on them. You are not performing in school. You have so much more potential. It's cruel because what we're doing is we're holding on to a piece out in the future that's ours, not theirs. So let's do this differently. Let's go into a completely different level of mastery on failure. Because failure is about energy and momentum. Failure is about wanting to go somewhere and then having the energy to go there with the freedom of whatever wants to happen. So when we step out of failure and we start to do co-creation, when we start to become interested, curious, when we go into discovery, it means we want to go forward with flexibility. And we get out of that loop of I'm failing, I don't know what to do, then things are getting worse, then I'm thinking more about failing. And we step outside of the box of failure and we start to look at what our other options really are. We get curious, we let it unfold, and we learn. We learn what things we didn't know before. We try on new hats, we try on new skills. We become problem solvers, which is, hey, I have great problem-solving skills. This is just simply a conception of where I want to go, and it's a movable target. So how do I problem solve and get it where I want it to go? So let go of the target. Let go of the societal spot that says you've made it. Let go of this box and create your own version of life. You know, I think that we've gotten so tight. This is my opinion. We've gotten so tight in what we think success is, and when driving it, and we focus with our kids only on academics, not on life. We focus only on work and making money so we can pay our bills. We focus only on so many things that we forget how to live. We forget what's important. We forget to take care of ourselves. We forget to take care of the people we love. And as we step out of this and we give ourselves a little bit more kindness, you know, address the energy of failure and shift it into problem solving, it becomes really beautiful. And it's a good way for us to shift the future direction of where we want our world to go. So I have this one tool because I'm realizing that I haven't been giving you a lot of tools. So I read this in this tarot book on this concept of failure, and I thought I would pass it on to you. Get 2 pieces of paper, and on one piece of paper, write down all of those failed expectations, all of those things that you're holding on in your head that just, boom, I didn't do this, I'm behind on this. And just fill the page with as many as you have to, right? Just dump it all out there. Put it aside and get a second piece of paper and look at that list and turn every single one of those statements into a positive opposite. In other words, I got overwhelmed when I moved and I didn't make my client calls. And then turn that into, it's time for me to contact my clients and I can hardly wait to tell them what I'm doing. Do you see the difference? You shift from pounding yourself to opening the door into letting something else happen. Letting them know you moved. What's going on? So this is what I do. I coach parents, I coach adults, I coach awakenings, I coach change, I coach from an energetic level and shift it. So let's shift that energy of failure into something different. Curiosity, problem solving, flexibility. Let me know if you'd like any information or if you'd like to chat about this. You can find me on DeniseDrydenCoaching.com and have a fabulous day. Thanks. Bye-bye.